All right, live from the Survival Pod. This is Freedom Phil out here in the wasteland. And what's today's topic? Why Europe and a lot of weak post Berlin Wall politicians fear what's going on in Iran. Yeah, they'd rather have the old order of dictatorship in Iran than see it get toppled. And there's a reason for that. Someone could say publicly different, but because of all the crap they've done in Europe and some of these other countries, like these Canada and whatnot, where they're like, wait a minute, what do you mean the people could rise up and actually assert their right to their country? Crazy, right? By the way, where am I going with this? It's Freedom Phil, like, subscribe. Hey, turn up the video speed. Why do I always say that? Because watch videos faster. Just makes sense. 1.75. It's not a channel for children. I talk about real things. I swear, I cuss, and I do all sorts of crazy things. And the thing of it is that I'm not here to be your digital nanny. So if you're farming out your parental responsibilities to a screen, you're a shitty parent. Don't blame me, blame yourself. Also, when it comes to the people that are in chat, subscribers or whatnot, I have no problem calling the retards and robots out. If you're an asshole and whatnot, I'm not tolerating that. I figure only less than 5% of my commenters are actually real people. So, gonna be real about it. If you're acting like a spurg, yeah, don't be surprised if I time you out or just fucking block you. Let's get into it. I'm watching this thing go on with Iran, and I see some of these people, America shouldn't intervene. And there's a certain level of that I agree with. Like, it needs to be an Iranian overthrow of their country. But on the other hand, at what level does the scale of dead bodies? How many dead bodies do you need to put on the scale before you say something needs to be done about this bullshit? How many people need to be gunned down? How many thousands or tens of thousands of people need to be gunned down so you feel like your hands are clean? I'm sorry, but let's be real about it. Iran is a fucking terrorist supporting piece of shit. It's been that way for ages. They don't have a strong military. They never have. They're literally just like the annoying neighbor that flings poo over the fence. The way they actually exert power is by supporting terrorists in other countries. How much better would the rest of the world be if this terrorist supporting country, basically not really the country, but the Ayatollah and the authoritarian regime, if they were overthrown and something stable and normal was put there? How much better would the Middle East be? How much better would the rest of the world be? And everybody knows it'll be better. But you ask yourself, why do some of these, sort of liberal countries, why are they so like, oh God, overthrowing the Ayatollah? Why aren't they just condemning the murders? And the answer is because they kind of fear what'll happen if their own country looks around and says, hey, you know what? Why the hell are we putting up with this crap? Because like you look over at Poland, for instance, and Poland didn't take in a bunch of migrants. Poland doesn't have the massive, no-go zones and rape gangs and all this crap that's going on in their country. And no, it's not all immigrants, but there's a lot of them. They don't have all these people that showed up to live off the dole and be a problem for them. You got native heritage-born Europeans that are being oppressed by their own damn people, just like the same thing with the UK, where literally they just made a video game recently that they'll recommend to you if you seem to exude a little discomfort with the way the government is treating you as a native-born person. Basically to identify you and then have people knock on your door. Why does this sound quietly like what happened at the end of the Cold War? And all through the Cold War, to be honest. We hear you have wrong think. These are post-Berlin Wall pussy politicians that are like used to the idea that there's a handful of people that have the nukes, and if you do the wrong thing, hey, you don't want to risk a war. So they live safely within their borders, oppressing their people. There's a reason a lot of countries like that don't like seeing a country like Iran being justifiably taken the peg down and letting the reset happen that should have happened ages ago for Iran. By the way, a lot of people talking about Venezuela, it's all about the oil. Yes, it's largely about the oil because Venezuelan oil helps support Iran and also helps support Cuba. Look at the domino effect of getting rid of these problems. If you can't understand something that simple, and also what about all the European countries that are probably getting some illegal oil, some ghost ship oil? See, people don't like hearing that. There's the truth of it. There's a lot of countries that smile at our face, but like, by the way, you want an example of that? All these people saying, oh yeah, NATO, we support NATO. Okay, and then Trump says, pay your fair share. What? You want us to pay our fair share? And he says, stop buying oil and gas from Russia. And they're like, what? Oh, you noticed that? You noticed that pipeline? Oh, that looks bad for us. Like after all the things, and by the way, this is why, to some degree, I met a lot of old people that say they didn't like the way Trump conveyed himself, you know, and that's why he lost the second election. But after getting a taste of just the ineffectiveness of Biden, they were happy to elect Trump back again because they're like, well, fuck, we gave you guys a shot and you totally screwed it up. You put a zombie corpse in there as the president for 4 years, and that was Biden. Trump's going out and just doing the things that we need to see happen. For the people that talk about, well, what about trying to take northern Canada? You know why? Because that'll cut the shipping by anywhere from 10 to 15 days. You understand that? 40 to 10 to 15. Whoever controls that passage is going to control a lot of economics of the future. Whoever controls the Greenland area is also going to control a lot of these things, as well as the simple factor of military installations. You have to be strong in the past. You have to build the infrastructure in the past to have a prosperous future. It doesn't just poof out of nowhere. This ain't fucking Aladdin. There ain't no genie. You actually have to build the infrastructure. Now, think about why a lot of these countries are so like, no, you can't do this with Greenland. No, you can't do this with Northern Canada. You know why? Because they benefit from the current social order and they want to be able to do the same fucking shenanigans. Now, taking it back to the people, the authoritarians, the post-Berlin Wall pussy dictators all over Europe, they fear like a motherfucker if they saw their own people rising up. Like, hey, are you tired of your children being raped in the park? Like that girl the other day, not woman, as the BBC tried to report it, two young Afghan immigrants trying to report them as some, just boys and a woman. No. She was 15 years old. One of them was 18. The other one was a little older. You understand that? And people are so goddamn afraid that nobody did anything because they were afraid of being labeled as racist or Islamophobic. Do you think that there isn't a pressure cooker going on in European countries that are having this happen? Do you really believe that? You have no-go zones in countries like, Sweden? All over. Anywhere that's taken a massive amount of migrants has basically no-go zones, and the idea that you have to tolerate this. People, just like with the Afghanistan war, can remember back in the day before all this shit became a thing. Before all this shit became a normal thing. So in their minds, they're looking around and saying, hey, if a country that's as brutalized as Iran can do this, why not us? That scares the hell out of the pussy dictators of Europe. And I agree with anybody. If somebody's committing crimes, they've come to your country with their hat in their hand, oh, please help us. We're trying to escape the tyranny of the country. They show up and they immediately start getting on the dole. Or even further than that, they start committing crimes. I don't care what the reason is. You need to be evicted back to your home country. And the ones that are the worst are the ones that are like, I'm afraid I'll be persecuted back in my country. And they take flights back to visit their family on the semi-regular. I'm sorry. When people are struggling to pay their rent, pay their bills, much like you see with the whole Somali situation in America, you're giving these are companies committing organized crime, just happens to be Somali owned. And they don't think it's just Somali. It's just all groups all over the country doing this. Homeless, charities that turn out to be complete frauds. People trying to feed people, complete frauds. Healthcare, complete frauds. All off your government welfare dollar. When the people in a country start to see that type of thing, that's been going on in Europe for ages, and they get pissed off. If your answer is, and by the way, the Democrats were trying to do this shit to you for years. This is one more reason for all the people that say, oh, you and your Second Amendment. Well, you bet you wish you had a fucking Second Amendment when the government in Europe is knocking down your fucking door because you pushed like on a tweet. You said, yeah, I don't agree with what's going on with immigration. And then they're like, what are you, Islamophobic? You need to go to the tolerance camp. Believe you me. And this is the same stuff if you go back and look at the Soviet Union. That they did regularly. That's now going on in Western Europe. Believe you me, Western Europe is scared as hell of Iran being toppled. Because if the people in Iran that are willing to die for their freedom, and there's tens of thousands of people in the streets, what do you think it means when they look at their own people that are slowly this slow pressure cooker, it's been boiling up? What do you think that they think is going to happen sooner or later? And it's justified. You treat your own people like shit. You let a bunch of people in there that live off the dole, commit crimes, sexually assaulting your women and children, some of your boys as well. And then you hide this shit. So you really have to put that in perspective. The people might look over down there and say, why can't we do that? That's what these post-Berlin Wall pussy politicians, nothing can ever change, ivory tower elites are scared as hell of. They're scared that the average heritage-born citizen that's been there for generations will one day look around and go, there's more of us than there are of them. And the day that they get so pissed that they stop obeying the police, and I'm not talking like what you see in Minnesota, a bunch of screaming Karens, a bunch of swamp hags that should be selling mushrooms to adventurers. No, we're talking about people that are literally tired of them being predicated upon. You watch these people come out there, and when they stop tolerating the police, yeah, there'll be some billy clubbing. But that'll just fuel the fire even more. Now, one would say, why is it that you would approach this from in America versus the Europeans? Well, see, here's the difference. In America, we're literally trying to deport a bunch of people that are like, sexual assault predators and, sex pests and criminals, gangs. And some of them are just like, you overstayed your visa. You're not supposed to be here. Why the fuck are you still here? And why are you living on the dole? Why are you taking up space? We're getting rid of criminals out of our country. And you got a bunch of screeching Karens that have nothing better to do that come out there. You go over and look at Europe, and you got a bunch of people that are slowly watching their culture be completely eaten away, and they're trying to defend their native culture. Like, you'd never tell a Native American, for instance, why are you complaining so much? It's not so bad. Why are you trying to why are you bitterly clinging on to your archaic culture? No, you're not so advanced. You would never say that to a Native American. Never say that to someone that's First Nations. Ironically, though, you'll say that to people that are American and European. So a lot of these dictators, these post-Berlin Wall pussy dictators in Europe and American politicians as well, they're scared as hell of the people just saying, we've had enough, and just rising up. Because sooner or later, if you have to point guns and actually start putting people down, that's when you pretty much have lost. Because sooner or later, even the military looks around and goes, "What the fuck are we doing?" Anyways, that's just some thoughts. Take it easy.